we've got stories for you today from all around the world. How many of you are from US, stateside? Raise your hands. Okay. How many of you are from different parts of the world? Okay, equal numbers. Okay, great. Well, this is going to be a very communal sharing of stories. Everything that you have built is really predicated on a concept that there are issues, there are problems. And what are those solutions? And it was certainly something that sparked Forecast, the birth of Forecast back in 2018, and really supporting a nascent industry that is really only a teenager still, and telling the stories of import, seeing beyond volatility and price moves and who got arrested today, but really digging deep into what the potential is of this technology across markets, across continents. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you a panel that can speak to what they're building from their parts of the world as we talk about dollar digitization for the developing world. So we have Mike Saul here from Goldfinch, Sebastián Serrano from Ripio. We've got Guerra here, Kawana from MFS Africa, and of course, Von Smith from Bitso. So let me start off with this very simple question of what was it that you saw that was an issue in the structure, the financial structure in the emerging market space? And what was the solution what's your thesis? Mike, I'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm building Goldfinch, which is the global credit protocol for DeFi, and the premise of it is allowing businesses around the world that need access to capital to be able to tap into this interoperable DeFi space. And so in comparison to other protocols like Compound and Aave, the businesses that are coming to Goldfinch are over-collateralizing their loans with their activities off-chain, their off-chain assets, and their off-chain reputation and income. And what we noticed when we started this 2 years ago were these businesses in Nigeria and Brazil and Indonesia that have amazing businesses, but they just struggle to get the capital they need to really grow and expand that. And we saw that in the DeFi space in crypto, there's all of this desire for yield, especially yield that is uncorrelated with the rest of the crypto markets. And we realized this is a great place, and crypto is really well set up to have this community that is looking at these businesses that have great opportunities for growth and to allow them to get access to capital and grow, and then bring that stable and uncorrelated yield into the space.
Okay, so you're basically people who need money and people who have money, and you help them find each other in the DeFi space. Sebastián, things are a little bit different in your part of the world, and we understand the challenges for sure. What is it that you're providing?
So, I'm Sebastián from Argentina. I grew up in Patagonia. And I've seen too many crises in my life that I should have. Like 4 major economical crises. When I was a kid, there was Australis, and in 89, that currency blew up and became pesos convertibles. In 2001, there was another major crisis, and the government confiscated all dollars accounts and destroyed the currency. That pesos convertibles became pesos. They were no longer convertibles. And then, well, I've been in tech, like I love technology. In 2012, I saw Bitcoin and crypto, and that fascinated me into a technology that we can use to build trust. And I think like a ton of the issues that have, especially Argentina and the emerging markets, has to be with pure institutions that being abused over and over. And this technology allows to build software that can work in a decentralized computer that that is difficult to abuse, and that can build system of trust, and I believe a lot in this technology. So kind of like the mission of the company is stated in the name. Ripio is a material that is used to build roads. And kind of like, and most of the roads in Patagonia are made of Ripio. So kind of like the metaphor of the company is that we're building roads to access blockchain and cryptocurrencies. We started in 2013. We have two sides of the company, one retail or wallet exchange with 3.5 million users. Our main countries are Argentina and Brazil. And we also have an institutional side that helps companies to get access to stablecoins. We trade a lot of USDC, and we have over 600 companies that right now are using us. And B2B offering, we recently partnered with the largest e-commerce of Latin America called Mercado Libre. It's kind of like the Amazon of South America. So trying to help the adoption. And
bringing a little stability to a part of the world that has been unstable financially for a very long time. Where you're doing a lot of work at MFS Africa, obviously, but you're a global citizen of the world. What are the problems that you see in Africa that you think this technology and what you're doing is really trying to augment?
Where to begin? Africa has been rising for so long. We've heard this story. We're sick of it, to be honest, personally. We've had various issues when it comes to access to financial services, and this whole big word, financial inclusion, has been thrown around for years and years and years. And when I talk about Africa rising and why I'm sick of it, is because it's kind of tethered to that idea of financial inclusion. Yeah. So I'm sick of it because we've started actually building solutions to include the African population and across the 54 different countries into the financial system. So that work is being done very steadily. MFS Africa, as a business, we are the largest payments hub on the continent, and provide interoperability for mobile money specifically, and banks and everything else. Our core focus is mobile money. So mobile money has been what has brought financial inclusion to Africa. We've done a lot of work to get over that hump and to actually include people in the economy. It's kind of like that scene from Dory, of the Finding Nemo, and all the fish are bobbing around after getting out of the sewer into the water. They're like, now what? Okay, we're included. Now what? So the work that I'm doing at MFS Africa is really to kind of work on the next step, which is financial freedom. So instead of, yes, we're included, okay, you can give the lady on the side of the road who's selling vegetables access to M-Pesa, mobile money, to actually be included in the economy. Now what? We now need to create services and products that actually can help them be financially free. So a lot of the work that we're going to be doing at MFS Africa, and that we hope to do with the ecosystem around us, is to build products and tools that are actually providing that next level of financial freedom for Africans.
Vaughn, you're building on an ecosystem for Brazil and much of emerging markets in this continent. Tell us about what's happening at Bitso. What have you identified that you're solving for?
When you are living in California or in the US, it's really hard to understand what it feels like when a financial system just doesn't work. And I was in Argentina paying for a dinner with the team a couple of weeks ago, and dinner was several 100,000 pesos. I had 1,000 peso notes. That's a wad of money this big. And I had the people sitting at the table on either side of me helping me count out the money to pay for the dinner, right? There's a whole lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. Half of the people in Latin America don't participate in the financial system. And so, Bitso is the leading crypto company in the region. We're like the Coinbase for Latin America. And there are two real things that we're solving for. First of all, helping people protect their wealth and giving them a way that they can save that doesn't depreciate. The Argentinian currency has depreciated by 99.6% against the US dollar in the last 20 years. And then secondly, just taking friction out of the system, because there's a lot of friction that is getting in the way of the economy growing and people participating. And so, tons of opportunity.
Well, I think, you know, when we talk about that inflationary issue, unfortunately, increasingly, Americans are experiencing that in real time. How many of you remember the big deal that New York Times made about the $25 steak? Do you remember that? Did you know that steak used to be a big, you know, was a big deal when it was $25? Now that's cheap. Now that's a bargain. And when we take a look at the inflationary pressures across America and really around the globe, especially in emerging markets, that is exponentially so much more difficult in real life than what we're experiencing even stateside. Mike, how are you applying the stability notion of, you know, a USDC or a US dollar pegged stablecoin to be able to lend to folks on the ground who are really facing a lot of these issues, both locally and internationally?
Yeah, so a lot of the businesses that are coming to Goldfinch, they are fintech and lending businesses. So they have expertise in their local market where they have customers that they're going out and lending out to, and they include small businesses or consumers who are looking for a range of different types of loans, from working capital loans to medium-sized businesses to kind of like monthly smaller loans to consumers. And then these businesses are coming to Goldfinch and they say, we have this great track record of making these loans, and they're looking for financing to expand their loan book. And so it is tricky in emerging markets where the local markets are having higher inflation, and these businesses are taking USD denominated loans in order to then convert it to the local currency and make local currency based loans in their markets. But these businesses have been doing this for decades at this point. They're experienced with getting UST based lines of credit, and they have different ways of being able to hedge the risks. And so like even before like the recent time in like COVID, a lot of these businesses were experienced of getting through those kind of turbulent errors, and so they already have this track record. And for the folks that we're talking to at Goldfinch, it's really just about getting more capital, and then they are able to pay USD denominated yields back into the crypto space, so that folks who are participating in this system on crypto, they see USD denominated loans, but it goes to these kinds of businesses that already are experienced in managing the like local kind of inflation rates that they have.
And also, you know, to the panelists, wealth preservation. I mean, this is a critical issue here. Inflation essentially erodes that opportunity. So how are you applying this thinking with, you know, what are the opportunities that exist that you're trying to provide for?
We at Ripio, we have more and more companies starting to use stablecoins. And right now, on our corporate side, like 80% of trading of companies is of stablecoins. Initially, they come to buy stablecoins as a way to hedge against inflation and the devaluation of local currencies. But the beauty of it is that they start to learn about the technology, and more we see how they're starting to use it to do payments to other companies. And this also gives like shows like the tool that it is this technology that allows you to have faster payments and settle all around the world. And for us, it has been also very good in this market, because it's been growing despite if it's a winter or not of crypto. We still have like free. We're growing month over month on more and more companies using this. On retail, on users, in these countries there is a lot of restrictions. Like for example, in Argentina, you cannot buy from the bank more than $200 per month. So like these stablecoins give an alternative you to be able to get a way of protecting yourself. And I think there is a big opportunity, like we're so early on everything that we're doing. Just to give a sense, like it's estimated that there is more than close to $100 billion in physical cash in matrices in Argentina. And this happened because there is a lot of distrust on the system. People suffer a lot, for example, in the crisis of 2001, if you have your savings in dollars in the bank, they were locked and the government did not allow to take it out of your bank account. And even if you, and there are many cases that happen, like people will have to pay a surgery or like a medical expense, and they will have the money, but they will not be able to use it. So they have learned that the way to protect you until now is like, don't trust. It's like if you have the stock in your house, it's yours. And I think like we can build a better system, and a system that we can help them digitalize and become like included, but a system that is safer, that allows to generate a lot more economic growth too.
Yeah, Guerra.
Yeah, I think, so when it comes to, like, I'll use Nigeria as the example, because Nigeria is a country that even right now in the crypto winter, like we're still seeing insane volumes of crypto being going in and out and around the population. So Nigeria, let's take a step back and understand the macro situation, right? Yep. So country heavily reliant on oil, and oil prices fell in the last like 6-10 years. Which has resulted in an impact on the naira, on their local currency. So the central bank has scrambled to protect the strength of the naira, and they've legislated a lot of barriers to foreign exchange, especially foreign exchange in U.S. dollars. So again, like same with Argentina, there's limits on the amount you can take out. Almost at some points in the last year even, there's been total ban on getting dollars from banks, and there's a whole seedy black market for it right now. But people like are trying to preserve the value of their money, right? So I like to say, no one wants a mortgage, they want a house. So no one wants a complex savings vehicle that's gonna give them all sorts of fancy yield, whatever. They just wanna make sure that the money that they've earned and they've saved actually holds its value. So a lot of people have turned to stablecoins, and USDC, for example, USDT in Nigeria, as a savings vehicle to hedge for currency devaluation that we're seeing across the continent as well. But I think that we need to also take a step back to understand that the adoption of crypto is not as widespread as most think. It is still quite niche, and we're struggling with on and off ramps on the continent, and that's I think what the next explosion I feel, and we're working on that right now, and working with regulators as well to make sure that we're remaining on side, if you will. But yeah, I think right now stablecoins and USDC, USDT as a savings vehicle is incredibly popular.
Well, for the first time, it actually allows for people around the world in the category of the unbanked to actually preserve their wealth in a way that right now in inflationary times, as the Japanese try to shore up the stability of the yen, they're selling their US treasuries, they're driving up 10-year yields above 4%. This is a globally connected world. We're talking about nations trying to preserve their wealth by backing it with the US dollar. We have the strength of the US dollar. These are macro moves by the top institutional traders in the world, and yet the access to the average person in Brazil, in Nigeria, in Argentina, in Indonesia, this is also what they can now do. It's an incredible thing, Von.
So I was going to add, I think, again, for the audience, in Latin America, the other thing that's going on is countries are electing left-wing leaders. And there's a pattern, right? That just immediately leads to devaluation of the currency against the dollar. And so what people have learned is that going and moving their funds to digital dollars is actually a really good idea. So for example, in Colombia, which is the most recent country that this happened, If you look at the market cap of Bitcoin versus USDC, it's obviously dramatically higher. But if we look at assets on platform for our customers in Colombia, it's about equal between digital dollars and Bitcoin, which is just remarkable. And that's evidence that people are desperate to basically access dollars to protect themselves against these inflation, depreciation, all of these things that are hurting their ability to protect their wealth. And like it feels fantastic. Like you're sitting in the US and you're going, well, I'm listening to people go, well, what are the uses of digital dollars or USDC? And I think Sebastian and I are like feeling it every day, right? This is amazing for people because they can't get US dollar accounts, but they can just open an account with us and with no friction and no cost, save in digital dollars. And it's like a huge service to these countries.
It's amazing.
On the piece about like the inclusion in the financial ecosystem. So North America, the global North, Europe, crypto is kind of like all my friends are crypto bros and like, you know, we're kind of like in the space. But in Africa, like it's, you know, when I talk about crypto, it's like the utility is just, everyone gets it, like people get it. And I think one of the, you know, if we take a step away from retail use cases, African trade, intra-African trade is massive. And every single company that is moving money across borders, like in large volumes, is actually settling in dollars. The U.S. dollars is you know, the world runs on SWIFT. We've heard this been said before, but digitizing and tokenizing the dollar is incredibly powerful to actually like power the intra-Africa commerce and commerce like in and out of Africa as well, to bring costs way down of settling and handling dollars. But it's definitely a very exciting time. And like I said, people on the continent get the utility. They're kind of over the speculative nature of it, and everyone's just excited for the utility.
Well, I note a survey coming out of Africa that MFS Africa was posted on one of its blogs actually today, which was that Nigerians experiencing inflation in America would rather cut back on their own discretionary spending, take public transportation, do whatever it was they needed to do to make sure that the payments and the remittances that they were sending to Nigeria remained intact, right? So the inflationary pressure they would absorb so that their families back home would not have to. Now, how amazing also is it that in a world where technology like this can reduce remittances to 1% to 3%, that on average, world remittances are still 6% and above. In some cases, in Asia, 17%. These are pennies on the dollar to you and me. This is education, shelter, food for families around the world.
Remittances and cross-border money movement is a race to the bottom. And I really hope that in my lifetime, we're able to see this, like the price of this, the cost of this come to zero, because moving money around should be as easy as sending an email. MFS Africa's, our mission is to make borders matter less, and especially in the continent, where it's crazy that it's more expensive for me to fly from Nairobi to Lagos than to go from Nairobi to London to Lagos. And that's also a reflection of how hard it is to move money between the borders. So it's a race to the bottom, as it should be. And we should see that come to zero, I hope, in my lifetime.
Mike, you're doing Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, adding countries every day, providing real dollars to SMEs in emerging markets. Mm-hmm. You're also allowing participation of, I mean, Indonesia alone is, when we talk about the ASEAN population, this is close to 1 billion people. You're actually helping a predominant part of the world to participate in a global economy. That's actually something for the rest of us in developed nations.
Oh yeah, and I think that's like goes to like a core belief that we have about what crypto can be doing, about enabling everyone to be participating in these systems. And the kinds of businesses that are coming to Goldfinch looking for more capital, they're like really high quality businesses that have been profitable for many years, and they're like bringing these over collateralized loans to the system, saying it's backed by all of this income and assets that they're doing. And for folks like us in the US, we don't have access to those deals. Right now, there's just like a few of these very private credit funds, and you have to be at this like certain, like very rich to be able to participate in these kinds of funds. So I think it's kind of like what crypto, kind of like the promise here of DeFi is opening up these markets and enabling businesses on one side to participate and investors on the other side. And so it kind of goes both ways, where these businesses that are super profitable can continue to grow what they're doing. And then folks in markets like the US can be able to participate and get access to these previously like super exclusive deals.
Off-ramps, sorry, go ahead.
Another point about that is it's not only about the issue of financial inclusion and protecting you from inflation. There is half of the emerging market population that doesn't have access to financial services, but the other half doesn't have quality services either. So in Brazil, for example, the leading bank charges 300% annually on credit cards interest rates. So and there is a lot of, this is like current rates. So
it's
there
like
is
loan shark percentages.
In the largest bank in the country.
In a bank.
Yeah, it is. So if we build systems that connect like Goldfinch to companies that can provide cheaper interest rates, we'll build a much better system. And I hope like remittances are also a thing of the past, like that we just work as one humanity. We see more and more freelancers, for example, that are getting paid in stable coins, and then like our wish is that we facilitate like their life so they can work globally. Then they get, let's say, stable coins, and we've recently launched a card, and then you get the stable coins in the card, and then you pay your groceries and convert to local currency on demand, so that you are protected all the time.
I love those use cases because it harkens back to what I said before about financial inclusion out, or I guess it's like still in, but like financial freedom, bring that to the front, right? So like what Goldfinch is doing is providing leverage and loans to these businesses that are viable and that are, we're not in Silicon Valley where you can raise with like a dream, vibes, and no product. There's people in the global south that actually have like solid businesses, and all they need to get to the next level is accessible capital that they can borrow. So that's what I mean by financial freedom. Like, yes, okay, we're included. Fine, we're able to start a business and I'm able to sell my bananas. Okay, I want to now buy a banana farm and actually start like doing this at like a bigger scale. What do I need to do that? I need debt. So providing these thoughtful products and actually so DeFi does that. So it actually gets us to that next level of financial freedom, which I'm just so stoked about what's happening next.
I'll add another story. Just like, again, in the spirit of trying to help everyone in the audience understand why the system doesn't work. So with these cross-border flows, obviously the cost is lower, it's an instantaneous transaction instead of waiting a couple of days. But I'll tell a story from a treasurer of a multinational bank. So I was talking, not multinational company, she was talking to me and she was explaining she needed, it was like 10 days away from when she needed to make payroll in Argentina, so she needed to convert US dollars to pesos. And she calls up her bank to get ready to do this, and they say, oh, we've decided we don't want to take you as a customer. We're going to cancel your account. And she goes, holy shit, what's happening here? And she basically explained to me, she spent the next week begging this bank manager to keep her on as a customer. And it was humiliating. It was I'm still seeing her describing this absolutely awful experience. And then she called us up and she used Bitso to do the transaction. It was instantaneous. She saved like 90% of the fees, and she didn't have to deal with a bank that was going to stop her from doing what she wanted to do because they had a new risk policy in place that week. So like there are all these impediments to the system working properly that I hope you're getting from us, not only the 300% annual fees, but like sometimes the system just does not work. And crypto is like just open, and we don't have the same issues.
But the on-ramp and the off-ramps are super important as well, right? And this is what you're all trying to bridge. What are the challenges? Vaughn, I'll start with you. What are the challenges that you're experiencing on the ground from a regulatory, potentially even policy, as you try to conduct your business, right? There are still on-ramps and off-ramps that you need to adhere to.
So I would say this is one of the reasons we're the leader in the region, because we have invested the time to do this really well. So for example, in Mexico, which is the biggest remittance corridor in the world, we're the only fintech in Mexico that is directly integrated into the central bank. And that just makes it really easy. So one of the things that we've focused on, and it's turned out to be a winning strategy, is just to make the on and off ramps across Latin America really easy and fast. And so, in Brazil, you fund your account, the money is instantly there, you see it show up, 1 second later in your Bitso account. That, I would say, in Africa as well, that's a winning strategy, right? Make it really easy to get money in and out of the traditional financial system.
How about you, Sebastian? 300% fees. I mean, I would try to protect that as much as possible. What are the challenges that you're facing on the institutional side?
So on the institutional side, there is a lot of learning, and it requires a lot of understanding about the technology. We also have been, for many years, talking with regulators, making them understand what are the actual challenges, risk of the technology, and also learning from them what are their actual needs. In emerging markets, regulators sadly cannot think in such a long-term visions. So they usually have very short-term, more narrower views because of the challenges that they have. So you have to work a lot with them to help them understand the technology, the actual risk, but also learn from them what they want to achieve, what are also their goals, and how you can try to accommodate your operations and the way you work, so that you can have a amicable operation. We have achieved to do that for many, many years now. On the development of this technology, I think there is also another challenge that happens, which is in emerging markets there is a lot less financial education. And we're all building tools, we're all building the verbs that are needed to be done so that people can use these tools. But we also invest a lot of time, and we need to, as an industry, also need to invest into generating a lot of financial education, so people are empowered into using these things. There isn't so many people that have access to capital markets, or they have the history of have done that. So we have done a tremendous work. In Argentina, we have more people with access to crypto than access to the stock market already. But it's still small to what it should be. Yeah. And a lot of that work on that front has to continue to be done.
Where what's, education, obviously, but also realization that you can participate. But what are the challenges? It is a very multi-jurisdictional, a lot of countries in Africa that are trying to work together, but real on-the-ground challenges as well.
So yeah, Africa is incredibly fragmented, right? So let's not even look at it as a monolith. There's 54 different countries, a minimum of 54 different regulators, 54 different currencies, which is why, like I mentioned before, a lot of things are settled in dollars to make it easier. It's a complex challenge we have in front of us, and even though we do with on and off ramps, we still haven't even reached full coverage yet, as much as we'd like to because of the regulatory hurdles. But there is a duty of care, I think, for companies like MFS Africa, folks like Visa, people like Binance, and conversations are starting to happen in these larger, more reputable businesses and incumbents to engage with regulators, to actually, you can't get in trouble for educating. It's free to educate people, I guess, and regulators and governments. Whilst we lay the groundwork for the infrastructure the pipes to be built across the continent. So on and off ramps are, yes, still there's a huge gap and a huge task in front of us in actually getting that to be across the continent. So the future I think that I hope for is tokenized cash, which, stable coins, across the continent that could really solve, at a wholesale level, I would say, even to solve a lot of settlement, large settlement issues. But we still have a long way to go, and there's a lot of smart people working on it. So,
Mike, you have to, onboard a lot of countries.
Yeah.
What are the challenges there? I mean, you have to learn culture, policy, nuance, everything.
Yeah, it's difficult, but the benefit is we're working with businesses that have already they've already established on the ground expertise in their markets. So lending businesses and fintechs are some of the most regulated types of companies in the world, and so going to one that has already been in operation for many years has already done a lot of the hard work to figure out the regulations in their local markets. And so that's a good place for crypto to start, because crypto isn't going to figure out the regulations for everyone off the bat, but these businesses have already done it. But speaking to on-ramps, that has been a really difficult thing. We have a spreadsheet with every country and all of the different exchanges and off-ramps, and there are certain countries. For example, I remember about a year and a half ago, we were talking to a company in Mali that was looking to get a loan to buy motorcycles to help local motorcycle taxi drivers, but we couldn't figure out a way to get crypto into Mali, and we couldn't work with them. But what has happened even over the past 2 years is the number of markets that are supported with on-ramps and off-ramps has been growing, even with Circle and USDC. I keep checking the fine print of the number of countries, and I see that list getting longer, which is great. And so that's sort of what we rely on, is the growth of the on-ramps across different exchanges and this infrastructure being built, and then we can use that to build a system on top of it to get capital into these markets.
I mean, the flow is like that little foot in the door, and you guys are all kicking through it with real products for real people. When we think about emerging markets, final question for all of you, for our audience to take away. When we think about emerging markets, we often, from our perspective at Forecast even, in Asia, we see this as an opportunity of leapfrog technology in a system that may not be as developed, that may have issues locally. And so emerging markets often are petri dishes of amazing technology uses. When we talk about moving from the speculative phase to utility, this is actually what we're talking about. So when we move from the abstract, which I would argue a lot of work in this space is still very much abstract for a lot of people, the practicality is right here up on stage, represented by all the products that you're actually putting to use. Final question for all of you. Based on what each of you are building, what does our collective future look like? Mike.
I would say broadly it would be, regardless of how you might label the market, a business anywhere in the world that has an amazing business model and they're profitable and they're growing should be able to go to an open marketplace, an open system, and look for access to capital, and should be able to get it based on that. And then anyone else in the world that is looking for a great, stable source of yield should be able to provide capital and be a lender towards these kinds of businesses. And that's really the vision, the future we're working towards. Anyone can be able to participate.
Sebastian?
Yeah, I think like hopefully we can build more plain field for the world, where we're moving as humanity in a new world where more and more of our lives are digital and they are interconnected, and I hope like these differences in between like countries matter less and less, and that we build a technology that is more reliable, that we can trust each other, and that can build a lot more economic development. And I think a ton of the early adoption of that is going to happen in emerging markets.
Amazing. Guerra?
Yeah, I'm excited to continue MFS Africa's mission of making borders matter less. And that's on the continent, but also beyond. But also opening up Africa, which is one of the youngest populations, highest adoption of tech and crypto even, new technologies, and open that population up to the world, and money, financial services, kind of like the bedrock of that. So I see that as being borderless and being almost, really seeing the real future that we've all been hoping for, making interoperability of different payment methods. And at MFS Africa, the work we do, and I call on other fintechs that are working in Africa to kind of, pull together to adopt crypto and actually bring costs way down to promote financial freedom. So,
Vaughn?
Thank you. So, I would just say, we're having a lot of fun, like you said, because emerging markets just present these amazing opportunities to be innovative with crypto technology. And so yesterday we turned on for customers, this is a first for the Americas, the ability to use QR code payments to spend their crypto just in local shops and bars and other places. And the feedback, customers are loving this type of functionality, right? Which is just plugging crypto in and making the traditional financial system work better. We're seeing lots of parts of our business growing at triple-digit rates because we're making crypto useful and really delivering on the utility value. And so I hope that we can continue to, we're definitely having a lot of fun, but I hope we can continue to push innovation in the industry because, we've got customers that benefit hugely.
And I think ultimately the race is on. And so from your perspective, whatever you're building, you are building it for a global community. So that goes and extends even beyond your own continents. And what I really think on behalf of the audience today for our panelists is giving us a real glimpse as to what the challenges are from your part of the world and how you're applying those real world solutions to people who are so hungry for it, because we all are. Thank you so much. And thank you.